So a lot of you have been wondering how I make these videos. I'm going to break it down by the gear that I use, the mounts that I use, and then also the software that I use to apply all the overlays and make a video. Alright, so the gear that you need is some type of video camera and then a GPS head unit that's capable of recording your location and all of the sensor data like your heart rate, power meter, that sort of thing. And I throw in a rear-facing camera too, but that's not necessary. Even though it's a few years old, the GoPro Hero 5 Session is the best cycling camera on the market, I think. It's small, it's light, has the standard GoPro mount, and it's just really easy to use. It has a really good image quality, and that's what I use for my forward-facing camera. I set it at 1080p, 60 frames per second on Super View, which is GoPro's like super wide view. Almost everything else is on default settings, and I leave on Pro Tune because I do some editing afterwards. But if you're not planning on doing that, just leave it on the default GoPro color. It actually looks really good. And I choose Super View at 60 frames per second because it gives you this really cool, like immersive point of view. It feels like you're right there in the action. And at 60 frames per second, the video is smooth. It's very realistic looking, almost like you're seeing it in real time, like it's not a recording. The rear-facing camera that I use sometimes for shorter races or like criteriums is the Hero 3 Silver. It's like 5 years old now or something, but having a rear-facing camera can capture some amazing expressions, especially like on the last lap of a crit. You can get some really cool shots. And just like the forward-facing camera, rear-facing camera should be 1080p or higher, 60 frames per second to give it that ultra-realistic look, and then as wide as you can go, so it really feels immersive. And the last piece of gear that you'll need is some type of GPS-enabled head unit. I use a Garmin Edge 510, but you can use any other head unit as long as it has GPS and then the capability to link your other devices like your heart rate or your power or your speed or whatever else that you're planning on recording. Alright, so how do we get all these things mounted to our bike? Well, first of all, don't be an idiot like me and buy a cheap-ass mount that you find on Amazon, because you might lose your camera on the first lap of a crit like I did in San Francisco this year. What you're looking for is something that is either made by the manufacturer of the camera, like GoPro for example, or at least something that is made out of aluminum. Like this Barfly mount's made out of aluminum, and it's cool because it holds the GoPro underneath and then it holds the Garmin on top, making things nice and tidy for the front of your bike. And with the Hero 5 Session still in that standard frame mount, on occasion I'll stick that with the little stickies they provide on top of my helmet, and it looks a little bit dorky, I'll admit, and it's definitely not the most aero thing you can do, but that perspective is hard to beat. Plus, if it's good enough for the national champion, it's probably good enough for me. Rear mount is a GoPro product. It's aluminum saddle rail mount, and it connects to the Hero 3 Plus with just the standard frame mount, which I use instead of the waterproof one because the audio quality is so much better. And for both the forward-facing camera and the rear-facing camera, I stick on these little tempered glass screen protectors because a little rock can kick up and like destroy the lens. It's happened to me before. And the last thing I'll say about mounting is for both the forward-facing and the rear-facing cameras, make sure they're angled down a little bit, especially if you're using the super wide mode. And I turn the front camera down far enough where I can actually see a portion of the front tire. It gives this cool perspective. You can actually see how close the action is sometimes during the last couple of laps of a crit. Alright, so now we're going to combine that video with all the data that we collected, and we're going to make them into fancy overlays. And to do that, there's really two good options. The faster, easier way is Garmin Virb Edit. It's free. You can check it out on their website. And a little bit more involved, but more flexibility comes through Dashware, which is also free, and you can check out their website to download it. Alright, this is Dashware. It is pretty old, pretty unsupported software, that's a little bit buggy sometimes, but it actually, the end product gives you a lot more flexibility than what Garmin Virb Edit gives you. So that's actually why I prefer Dashware. And there's a couple of tricks that I've learned along the way that will help you a lot. So let me show those to you now. This is version 1.9.1, and we are just going to make a new project, call it something generic, that's fine. And here's the basic format right here. There are some default gauges here. We can change those later, but first we need to import our data file. And it's the TCX format is the best one to use. It contains all of the data that your Garmin or your other head unit saved during the ride. My favorite way of doing that actually is just from Strava. That is under this wrench icon, and then you go export TCX. That's the easiest way I've found to do it. Okay, so you've uploaded your TCX file. Next you need to put in the video file. And actually you don't need to put in the same video file that matches this data file. And I know that seems crazy, but it'll make sense in a little bit. See, this is the first of a couple of tricks I know I've learned from Dashware. One inconvenient thing is the GoPro spits the videos out in like 12 or 13 minute chunks, and that makes this whole process really inconvenient. So I just put in a video file that is at least as long as this data file. So if this is like a 1 hour crit, make sure that the video file is at least 1 hour long. So I just uploaded this generic 90-minute crit video, and it does not match this data file, but that won't matter. And let me explain how that works. So under the synchronization tab, you can see the GPS data here, and you can see this ride is 54 minutes 30 seconds long, and then this generic video file that I uploaded is right here 91 minutes long. So the video file is longer than the GPS data. That's good. So we will scroll this back to the beginning, and we'll just say sync with video to make sure that our GPS data is going to carry with it all of those metrics like heart rate and power, and it's going to be synced with this video. So now we come over here to Gauge Toolbox, and we are going to reposition these to where we want them. Let's say we want this one down here in the corner. We want this one right about there. We'll get rid of these. And say we also want to put in this power meter here. And this is one thing I really like about Dashware, is all of these are super customizable. If you double click it here, you can come through, and I suggest you play around with these, but every little detail of these gauges is customizable. You can make it look exactly how you want it. But just for an example here, let's just say this is how you want it to look right here with the map. You got the power, and then you have this gauge. And then this last, most important gauge, you have to make it yourself, is called, I have it called new gauge right here. It's this green one. And you make it by clicking this plus mark right here, but basically all it is a 1920 by 1080 green rectangle. That's all it is. There's no input, there's no gauge inputs, it's not showing any metrics, it's just a green rectangle, that's all. And let me show you why that's important. We're going to put that guy, we're going to grab him and click and put that over everything. Okay, so we lost our gauges. That's okay. We come back here to project, and it shows our project gauges down here at the bottom. Let's bring this new gauge, which is the green rectangle, and let's bring that to the top. Okay, good. So now all of these other gauges are underneath it. You can come back here to Gauge Toolbox, and then you can play around with these some more if you want to make them bigger, if you want to change their color, whatever you like. But we're going to call that good. And now remember how our GPS data is only 54 minutes long, but this video is 91 minutes long? Well, we don't need the video to be 91 minutes long because the data only lasts 54 minutes. So I'm just going to slide this little triangle back to 55. Okay, good. So now we're all set, and we are just going to export this, and then later we will sync the video with the data here in Adobe Premiere Pro or whatever other software you prefer. This will all make sense in there. So let's come over here, let's say create video, and we're going to let that export. and we'll take another look at how this all comes together in Premiere Pro. Alright, so that clip finished exporting from Dashware, and here we are in Adobe Premiere Pro, and I have imported that clip into my timeline as a new sequence. For the sake of time, I actually used one from another project that I was working on, but it's the same idea here. We have that green screen, and remember the video that underlies this green screen from another race. It's unrelated, so this audio track is not going to make sense. The first thing we can do is get rid of that. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in all of those GoPro clips, and I'm going to drop those in. And actually I'm going to bring the green screen on top of it. So now we can bring, this is what's convenient, is we can bring in all those clips from the whole race together. Next thing we do is we come over here and we look for this keying video effect called Ultra Key. We apply that to our Dashware overlay, and we are going to, let's see, choose with the eyedropper here our key color as this green, and boom, there we go. So now we have our video that matches our data overlays. All we have to do from here is we can select all of these, and well, you can go about this a bunch of different ways, but you can group them, or you can nest them, you can drag them all around, and just until data overlay matches the video. And then there you go. And then you can do interesting stuff, like, this is what I like about it, is you can take this and you can change the scale of the overlays if you want to. You can since they're on a different layer here, you can hide them if you want, and you just have a lot more flexibility here, and that's why I like using Dashware. Alright, this is Garmin's Virb edit software, free, just like the Dashware software. I am using, which version? 5.4.2. The first thing you're going to want to do is import your clips. So you finished your race, you have the video files, you're going to take them from your GoPro or from your action camera, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, whatever cell phone, camcorder, doesn't really matter what you use, you just get it into the software here. And then once that's done importing, that'll take a little bit because it's doing some optimizations. Then the next step is to create a video here, and I'm just going to open one that I've started, but this is the tab you'd usually click on. I'm just going to show you one I've been working on. Of course, I don't use this software anymore. I've switched over to Dashware, but I think I remember how to use this. So this is the main screen here when you're putting together a new video, and you're going to see these files that you've uploaded. And what you're going to want to do is just grab them and then drag them down to the timeline sequence here. And after that, you are going to put together the data overlays. And for that, you need to locate the GPS file, the Garmin file from that ride. So you're going to come to Gmetrics here, and that is like Garmin Virb edits fancy term for all of your overlays. And first we need to import the data, so we're going to import Gmetrics here, and that is the Garmin file. Boom. That's the one. So once you find the one that you want, make sure it matches your ride. Say use this log down here. Once that's in there, now we need to synchronize the overlay data with the video so it makes sense, so it's in real time. Come down here to Gmetrics Sync and click on that. And yeah, here we go. So this is the spot. This is where we synchronize the video with the data. And the best way to do it is you find a feature, like say the start finish line. So you can see I've done it here already, and you can go frame by frame here. But here I found the finish line, and I've made sure it's the right lap. That's an important detail, because if you're on the wrong lap, the data won't make sense. But I have matched that lap with my position here on the map, as indicated by this red dot. And if it's wrong, then you can move this around and say, say you should be, 50 feet back, 100 feet back, whatever. You can slide these around, and you can zoom in on this too. You can get really accurate. So the idea here is you're synchronizing the two. And once you're happy with it, we say done. I don't want to save those changes. I'm going to say cancel. But here are the GoPro 12-minute chunks. That's why this is split up into several pieces, because GoPro records in like 12-minute chunks. The easy little trick I found is not even really a trick, but we come through here, we've synced our first clip with the GPS data, and I look at this time right here, so minute 29:52 on the GPS matches with the end of the first clip, which should match the beginning of the second clip, right? So 1:29:52. Now we come to our second clip, and now when we sync that one, the beginning here, 1:29:53. Okay, so good. The end of the first clip matches the beginning of the second clip. That is an easy way to match the second clip with the GPS data. So now we go to the end of the second clip, and that is 1:41:42. We go to our third clip here, 1:41:43. Okay, so that's a quick and easy trick to get all of your clips matched with the GPS data. And you can play it, and if that's making sense on all of your clips, if you're happy with that, then the next thing we go to, now that we're synced up, is we can go to our gauges. And this is a lot more intuitive than Dashware. A little bit less flexibility, but it's a lot easier to get these gauges the way you want them. You can move these around, you can add them, you can build a template. So I've made some of these templates. You've probably recognized them from some of my videos. And yeah, there's a lot of customizable features through here. You can get it the way you want it to look fairly easily. And what I like about Garmin Virb Edit is it also has this editing feature built in. So you don't need the expensive Adobe Premiere Pro software. You can get your editing done right here in this software. And it's kind of it's free software. And you can trim, you can mirror, you can even change the speed, you can tinker with the audio, and you can get this YouTube ready clip. You don't have to upload a whole hour crit because nobody wants to see that video. You can clip the interesting bits, you can export it, and then it's just ready to go. You don't have to spend the time doing additional tweaks in Premiere Pro. Once you're happy with the way it looks, then you just come up here to export. Make sure this matches what you recorded in, 1080p, 60 frames per second. Target quality is max, and copy these settings right here. This is the way to go. Click export, and then you're good to go.